And Mark, good to see you again. Playoffs now await for you as a side. Excitement building, maybe a bit of nerves as well for the supporters. But how are you feeling looking ahead to these two games?
Oh yeah, excited. I think that's the overriding emotion. I think we're all obviously leading into the game earlier in the week. Then there was a little bit of that pressure, but that's dissipated a little bit. But now we're just looking forward to continue the journey that we've had this season. The intention was always to try and get out of this league. We've still got an opportunity to do that, so we're going to make best use of that opportunity that we've got, hopefully.
The preparations differ at all, or is it very much a case of staying with what you've been doing?
We've got new balls to play with. They've sent us a new bag of balls, so they weren't pumped up properly, so we had to use the other ones to a lesser extent. So nothing really changes. It's still the way we prepare. It doesn't alter too much in terms of it's always a variation given whatever opposition you're up against, but the actual lead up and the quality and the amount of work that we do leading up to a game won't change this week.
In terms of messaging, does that at all change as well? Because league football is now gone and we're into these, it feels like cup football.
Yeah, well, that's where we are. Yeah, it's like a different competition, but the same competition, so it's a bit bizarre in that way. But no, I mean the game and the motivation that you need to have and instill in the team leading into this game is quite simple to really generate, because it's there for us. It's up to us to take the opportunity that we find ourselves with. So that's our intention. It's going to be another big occasion, huge crowd once again, and likelihood is that we'll break another record in terms of attendances for playoffs. I think that's both in League One and League Two. So huge effort by the fans. It's unbelievable on the back of obviously huge numbers against Orient. So yeah, we're looking forward to it.
I'll get your thoughts on the crowd in just a moment, but I know this season we've often spoken about how for you as a player, bigger the game, bigger the excitement. I mean, is that very much the case for these now for the players? It's a big occasion.
I hope so. You've heard me say that loads of times, and that was my reality. That's I always used to get really excited. The bigger the game, the better from my point of view. And I just sense we needed to get the first part of it done, which obviously we needed a result against Orient. We got that, and I think that really helped us. I think in terms of what we needed to do in that game, I thought we navigated it really well, and I think certainly gained momentum from that game, and that's what we'll try and use to get us through these two that we have ahead of us.
I spoke with Richie not too long ago about this point in terms of either playing the game or playing the occasion, and which was the better one to choose. How do you view that at all?
I think you need to play the game. Obviously, the occasion takes care of itself, but you can use the occasion to your own end. And I always used to get a real rush of excitement and adrenaline as a consequence of it being a big crowd and a game of significance. And I used to use that to make me play better. Some players find that more difficult. We're more used to that level of crowd and expectation than I would argue Carlisle. They have their own expectation, their own level of it, and they get decent crowds, get good support, but it's nothing at the level that we get. And we have that week in, week out. So I suggest the significance and the scale of the game won't faze us.
And we spoke about, I think it was character after the game against Leyton Orient, purely because of how the team responded to the goal that was conceded. And we've also spoken about how the team has grown this season. Is that resilience a big part of the growth that you've seen?
Yeah, we've had to show that on numerous occasions. In recent weeks we've had a couple of setbacks, and that was difficult to bounce back from, but we were able to do that, and I think that's what you're talking about, that resilience in terms of our character and being able to go again and not get too disappointed, understand and recognise that there's still a job to do, and that's what we did, and we were able to get to a point where we are now. And as I said, from the outset, we got an opportunity to achieve our goals, which is to get out of this league, and we're still very much in that mix for that. So we're going to give it our best shot.
And with that resilience in mind, then, I mean, that's a strong, I guess, characteristic to have within your game going into these two huge, crucial games now in your season.
Yeah, it's really one of many characteristics that you have to display when you're leading into a huge game that we have ahead of us, huge 2 games. Resilience, character, confidence, many traits that you have to display, and basically it's about just going out there and being the best version of yourself and give yourself the best chance to perform. And I just sense the group that we have now are ready for this situation that we've found ourselves in, and we go with the best intentions to get the job done if we can.
And with that, how valuable is it to have the experience that you've got within the squad? I mean, you selected Adam Clayton for the Leyton Orient game as well, someone who's been there, done that, and has experienced this.
Yeah, I think you've got to have a certain level of experience, certainly, and we've got good examples out within the squad. And you mentioned Clayton. There's a lot of guys. Richie himself has been through playoffs. Cookie as well. Any number of them. Liam Ridehouse has been in playoff finals. So we've got that understanding of what the situation is like, and even the ones that haven't been involved in will get a sense of what it's like, obviously, with conversations that they have with the guys that have been here and done it before. So we've got a good vein of experience right through the squad, which is invaluable when you're faced with these games.
Carlisle, the opponents then, I was doing the numbers, and of all the goals that you've scored this season, they're only one of 2 opponents that you faced that you haven't scored against this season, that and Stockport. What do you expect from them, and what will it take for you to beat them and to get to that final, do you feel?
We'll have to play well. We're very evenly matched. I mean, you look at our records this season, I think there's just probably 4 or 5 goals. That's the only difference. Every other metric is exactly the same in terms of games played, games won, games drawn. They're very, very similar. So it shows that we're well matched, but they're a good team. They don't play in the same way as we do, and they've changed a little bit, I would suggest, from what they initially started out with. They're probably more direct than they were initially, but they've had a very successful season, as everybody who's in the playoff finals has had, and credit to them. But they're our next opponent. They're the ones we have to overcome, and we show them great respect because they deserve that, because they're a good team with a good manager. But we've got to just do the business, make sure we get through.
Their manager was saying after the draw against Sutton on the final day for Carlisle that they go into the playoffs in probably worse form than yourselves. But does form go out the window at this point?
It can do, and has done. I think there's examples of that. Probably everybody's got some example that they can recall, but it does happen. We just got to make sure we're in the frame of mind that that's not going to happen to us. And like I said, we've got a lot of elements that will allow us or not allow that to happen. I just think where we are and the season we've had and the sport we've had, we've got a lot of things trending in the right direction, and we've got to use that to our advantage. Make sure that we play well. If we do that, then we're a match for anybody in the league, and that includes the ones that have been promoted, as we know. So we've got nothing to fear. We've just got to go out and perform and execute what we want to do. If we can do that, then it'll be very difficult to beat us.
You mentioned the supporters. Obviously, it's been a hugely emotive week for the football club, given the anniversary of the fire disaster. We saw record numbers against Leyton Orient. Just how big a part do they have to play in these 2 games, if not 3?
Well, they've been great all season, but I thought they were great against Orient, and I think I mentioned to you immediately after the game, and we're going to need that level of support again. There's going to be moments in the game when we probably lose a little bit of the momentum that we want, and those are the moments when the crowd will sense that, and then they will get us back and able to turn the direction of the game back towards us. And it's going to ebb and flow because, as I said already, we are evenly matched, so there'll be occasions where we're on the front foot, other occasions where we have to just withstand a little bit of pressure, and that's when the crowd really plays a part and gets us where we need to be and gets us over the line, hopefully.
I know we've spoken about the emotion from the stands throughout the season, but it was very noticeable, we didn't really address this after the game, it was a very noticeable roar when you did concede, a suggestion that they're absolutely with you.
Yeah, I mean, I think I mentioned about the connection we all feel at the moment, and that's vitally important for us. I think it's whichever way you look at it, I think the season's been one of real progress. We've beaten almost every other, for the season as a whole, we've been almost everything that we've done in previous seasons at this level, so we've progressed in every area in terms of games won, home games, away games, almost anything that you care to mention. We've bettered that or certainly been within the level we needed to be. So in terms of the progress that we've made this season, it's been huge, but the reality is that the goal was always to get out of this league this year, and that's what we hopefully will do. Just on
that connection, I mean, as I mentioned earlier, it was a hugely emotive week. Obviously, the memorial on Thursday yesterday, and the connection that's very clearly growing between you as a playing squad, management, staff, towards the supporters. I mean, for you and what you've achieved in the game, what would it mean to get the job done this season, to get promotion?
Well, we have a huge responsibility. I mean, this week highlights the responsibility that we have when we represent the club more readily than on other weeks, clearly. But we don't underestimate the role that we play in terms of the influence and the effect we can have on Bradford and the wider supporting demographic. So we have that responsibility, and we work with that, and we're very conscious of it. And listen, the reason I'm here is because I wanted to be part of something that could progress and we could achieve things together, and we've got an opportunity to do that. So that was the attraction for me. I saw a big club that weren't where they wanted to be, that were struggling somewhat, and maybe connection with the team itself and the club and the players, it wasn't quite where it needed to be, and it was a challenge, and that's why I felt it was one that I wanted to get my teeth into. So thank goodness I did, because I've really enjoyed every moment of it, and we're at a point in the season where let's see if we can make that final step. But it's been a good season, but we want it to be a great season if we can.
I asked Richie a similar question. Has it lived up to the expectations that you had?
Oh yeah, I mean the emotions, it doesn't matter if you're top of the Premier League, Champions League, whatever you want to say, or you're in League Two, which is 3-4 steps below that. The emotions that are generated by sport and football in particular don't change. It doesn't matter what level you're playing at. Yeah. If you're engaged and you got empathy for the club that you're involved in, then you're going to experience the emotions that you experience at other places and at other times, and that's certainly what I've experienced this year.
We were just having a conversation before you came in actually about the romance of lower league football, and with the Premier League and the money, and sometimes fans maybe feel disconnected with the big clubs, and we've seen some videos on social media of maybe fans not getting acknowledged by players and whatnot. It feels like at this level that connection is still very much.
Yeah, I think it's a good point to make. I think it does feel stronger. I think that there's more accessibility. I think that's part of it. But yeah, there's not so many layers and people put in between players that just makes that distance bigger. So that's a good thing, I feel.
Team news wise, how are you going into Saturday?
Pretty much okay. From the Orient game, no falls from that, touch wood. We've given them a couple of days off just to recover, and yeah, all came in today very good. Everyone's excited, obviously, so the energy in the group I've talked about before, it's really high at the moment. So yeah, no, we're in a good place. Another training session, obviously, get through. Hopefully everybody comes through unscathed, and we'll be good to go.
Best of luck.
Thanks a lot.
Obviously, at this level, you don't get to play two-legged games that often. as a player, you played a few. Is there a different mindset going into them than a one-off game?
Well, there's that old cliche that you can't win a tie in the first leg, but you can lose it, and so you've got to be mindful. Like, you've got to make sure that you're very much in the tie going into the second leg. You don't want to give yourself too much to do. So the first part of it will be probably different than the second leg, I would suggest, but we have to wait and see. I mean, things on the night can change very, very quickly, so we just got to make sure that we're in a position to get through, and we're not the reverse of that, where you've given yourself too much to do. So it's up to us. We've got that opportunity to dictate the outcome of the tie right from the off, given we're at home first.
And as you said, you and Carlisle, very, very similar records this season. Very, very tight games when you've played each other. Do you think there is a case that you might know each other too well for it to change at all?
Well, we played each other twice, obviously, and I think everybody knows all the players in terms of what they're likely to do, and the actual makeup of the squad and who's available and who isn't. So you can get a fair idea of which way teams are going to go, but then it's about performance, and it's about executing your game plan during the game rather than just talking about it and trying to illustrate it on a training field. So it's all about guys stepping up and making sure that they perform at the right level, the level that's going to get them through the tie. I've got no strong views really on which is the better, in terms of, is it better to play away first and at home last? People view that as an advantage. I'm not too sure about that. It's very dependent on the first outcome, I feel.
And you mentioned excitement and how you could use that. Is there also a case for saying you have to keep somewhat of a lid on it, that players don't get overexcited by it?
That can happen. I don't sense that will happen with us. I mean, I'm always promoting that you should be excited rather than anxious, and I'm happy where we are in terms of the enthusiasm we've shown for what's ahead of us. So I don't think we'll get overexcited. I think we're very focused in terms of what we need to do and our understanding of what needs to happen. And if we keep that level, then I think the adrenaline and everything that actually playing the game itself brings out will be there, and we can use that. But I don't think we'll be overexcited. I think we'll just be very focused on what we have to do.
Cheers. Good luck.
Thanks, mate.
Obviously, Mark, this is your first taste of the playoffs. I mean, you talked earlier about, what's at stake. I mean, do you feel within the area and within the club that the stakes feel as high as perhaps when you were playing in the Champions League or the Premier League? Or?
Well, yeah, I mean, in terms of the emotion that is generated, I've already mentioned that. It's just very, very similar. You sense there's a real expectation leading before the game. I'm excited about it. You guys are obviously going to cover it, and you get a sense of that as well. So, yeah, it's a huge game. I think given our platform and the base that we have, the fan base that we have, then it makes a huge game. This level of game is the same in terms of maybe what it generates at higher leagues, but I think for us, clearly involved, it's more significant because we're involved in it. So for us, it's the biggest game. I mean, there's big Premier League games and relegation battles and huge amounts of money involved, but it pales to, in comparison to what we're facing, what we feel about this game. So there's your line.
You feel that this week, have you sort of had a bit of an extra spring in the step going into training, looking forward to this game? Because as you say, it's it's the biggest, certainly the biggest one you've had since coming to Bradford City. And
yeah, I think so. I think there was that pressure before the Orient game, and until that was put to bed and we actually were in the playoffs, then yeah, there was still that little thing in the back of your mind that it could go wrong and we could just miss out like Mansfield did. So once that was put to bed, then I think you're right. There's real excitement. There's a real enthusiasm for what's ahead of us, and everybody's looking forward to it.
And obviously, looking at when you look between the 4 teams in the playoffs, there probably isn't. I think the Boggies have Stockport's very narrow favourite, but they're all, it's so tight that there isn't a clear, because often you can go into a playoffs and there might be one team perhaps just missed out on automatic and can say, well, they're probably the favourites because they've had the most consistent form.
Yeah. No, it's very close and been close all year. I mean, Mansfield's missed out. If you look at the top 8, they've all been there or thereabouts, and then there's a gap because the top 8 were the best teams in the league. We obviously finished higher than that, so it tells you where we are. We're very much one of the better teams in the league, clearly, not just by virtue of where we finished, but how we performed against all the other top teams. So I think that's important. So yeah, I think that the league this year, there's no outliers. It's the teams that you expected, given the season everybody was having. They're the ones that have deserved to be there because they've been consistent and had really strong runs when they needed to.
I think there was a little bit of words going on. I think Paul Simpson suggested that, I think he said the playing budget of the other 3 dwarfs ours. I think that was the exact phrase. So I think he's trying to play the
Well, everybody says we're big spending Bradford, but I would suggest we're not the biggest spenders, let's put it that way.
Mark, when we talked to Richie earlier, he was talking about people around him sort of getting ahead of themselves, thinking about Wembley and all that sort of thing. Is that the big danger? And do you think the blinkers are on this squad, that it's not something you're concerned about?
There is that danger, and people will mention that. But no, I just sense we're very much focused on the next game, and that's how we have been for a number of weeks now, because it was always about who's next, who's the next one in front of us, and that doesn't really change. We're in the playoffs, we know, and that's ahead of us, but it's still just about the next game rather than going too far ahead, because that can run away from you. So so there's no chance of us looking further ahead than actually the game on Sunday.
And you've been in this mindset for a long time, because it's these press conferences for weeks now.
I've been saying that for a long time. So I'm not just saying it on this occasion. It is the way you have to approach it. You just, there's too much danger to look too far ahead. So that's not something that we've allowed ourselves to do.
Since Harry Chapman's been injured, you've tried various different options. Is that a case of horses for courses, or are you still sort of working out your best solution there?
It was a blow to lose Chappie, because his ability is there for everybody to see. He's a little bit different from what we have, and does commit players. We've looked at different things in recent weeks, more so because of maybe what the opposition were likely to do and what the opposition were doing during games, and I felt we're going to have to change this, and I'd like to think I've been able to recognise when things weren't working. We had to change quickly. Certainly, there's been games in recent weeks where what we talked about beforehand wasn't really working. So the skill is, can you recognise that early and do something before the roof caves in? So for the most part, we were able to do that. So we've looked at different things. We looked at different formations. I think I'll keep my cards close to my chest. I think that's maybe a competitive advantage now. They might not quite know which way we go.
Yeah, and just on that, I mean, when you obviously both teams, as you said, very familiar with each other, is there a temptation to just try something to surprise them, or do you have to, can that be a danger that you get lulled into being too clever?
I would only do it if I felt it was going to be effective. So you back yourself in terms of your experience and your understanding of the game, of what you feel will be effective against whichever opposition or shape or formation that you're playing against. So I have a view on that, but it's not going to be radical. Clearly, it's going to be a tweak here, a tweak there, maybe, or we could just revert to type and let's see how it goes. But let's wait and see. Yeah.